Hello, podcast fam. I am thrilled to share some exciting news. My book, So Grow Lead, is officially live on Amazon. This book is more than just my story of starting a nonprofit and building a peanut butter factory in Malawi. So trust me, the ups and downs of that journey are worth the read. It's also packed with practical strategies to help nonprofit leaders like you tackle challenges with clarity, courage, and a whole lot of heart. If you've ever wondered how to turn your vision into reality, navigate the inevitable hurdles, and build something meaningful, whether in your organization or in your own life, this book is for you. I'd be so grateful for your support in spreading the word. Grab your copy of So Grow Lead in the show notes and on Amazon today. Let's keep sowing seeds of impact together. Welcome to the Lead with Heart podcast, which is dedicated to nonprofit leaders who are passionate about making a difference. I'm your host, Haley Cooper, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on a journey of growth, inspiration, and transformation. At Lead with Heart, we believe that leading with heart means embracing empathy, compassion, and authenticity in every aspect of our work. It's about putting people first, fostering genuine connections, and creating a positive impact that goes beyond numbers and metrics. In the nonprofit world, it can often feel like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. The challenges are immense, and the road can be lonely. But here, you're not alone. This podcast is a community where we support each other, share our stories, and learn together. Each episode will dive into personal and professional development topics tailored specifically for nonprofit leaders. From innovative fundraising strategies and effective team management to self-care practices and leadership insights, we're here to provide you with practical strategies that you can apply to your life and work. My goal is to empower you, elevate your leadership, and engage your heart in all that you do. I want to help you navigate the unique challenges of the nonprofit sector with confidence and resilience, so you can continue to create meaningful change in the world. So whether you're driving to a meeting, taking a break, or winding down for the day, tune in and join us on this journey. Together we'll discover what it truly means to lead with heart. Thank you for being here. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lead with Heart podcast. This is your host, Haley Cooper, and today's guest is a powerhouse in the nonprofit and small business world, Mandy Pearce, owner and CEO of Funding for Good. She has over 2 decades of experience in nonprofit fundraising, organizational development, and business growth. Mandy has made it her mission to help leaders grow with intention and without burnout. Ooh, I love that. Since founding her company in 2009, she's trained thousands of professionals through high-impact workshops, coaching, and strategic consulting, all delivered with her signature, no-nonsense style. When she's not mentoring organizations and entrepreneurs to reach their next level, Mandy is enjoying life in Hickory, North Carolina, with her husband, Ricardo, their pups, Dally and Max, and probably whipping up a gourmet meal or relaxing on the porch with a glass of sweet tea. I can't wait to dive into this conversation. Welcome to the podcast, Mandy.
Thanks for having me. And you got everybody's name right. Nobody does that the first time.
What kind of dogs do you have?
Dally is a pit bull mix, and Max is an Airedale Terrier.
Aw, that's so sweet. Well, I think before we hit record on this podcast, I was like, it's not creepy. We're in 2025, but I've been following you for a while and just love all the content that you post. Tell me a little bit more about your background and how Funding for Good originated and became what it is today.
That's a mouthful. Funding for Good came from a company that I started called Grant Crews, CREWS, Consultation, Research, Education, and Writing Services. And we decided 2 years after that we didn't want to be pigeonholed to grant writing for the rest of our careers. So we broadened that name to Funding for Good, which is great because we did lots and lots of development coaching, which we still do, but that was our bread and butter for maybe 8 years, and grant writing, fundraising, coaching, consulting around that. And then we got into strategic planning a lot. And now we really do a majority of our work in strategic planning and then work with clients that are in strategic planning after the fact to help them with their objectives, whether it's executive search work, fundraising work, grant writing, leadership development, whatever that is. And then a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic, we started working with consultants. I started having a lot of people reaching out to me, wanting to ask me questions about how did you do this? How did you do that? How did you get into consulting? How should I think about this, that stuff? So we just started offering a little bit here and there and discovered that I love that work. So we have a lot of services for folks that are either starting or growing consulting businesses. And so we really do half and half. We work with nonprofits and we work with consultants. And I went full time with Funding for Good because I got burned out working for nonprofits and had a really bad last experience with the last full-time job, and said, I just want to work for myself. I want to make my own hours. I want to do my own thing. I want to control my own narrative. And I didn't know all the things I didn't know at the time. So I learned a lot the hard way. I had a lot of health problems as a result of working too much and not balancing that with my life. So that's where things like our nonprofit consulting conference have come from, and a lot of the work we do with folks about you have to take care of yourself if you're going to be good for anybody. And I know that you do a lot with people, not just nonprofits. Mothers have to do that. Fathers have to do that. Everybody has to be able to balance if they're going to be good for anybody. So that's been a journey I've had to learn myself, and now I'm happy to share it with other people so they don't get to that point.
I think that's so beautiful that you've been able to reflect on your own experience with burnout. And I know a lot of listeners can probably relate to that, and doing the work to then be able to bring it to other people so that they don't have to go through what you went through. And it's interesting. I don't know what the percentage is. I'm sure you do, but like 75% of people are looking to leave their positions in the nonprofit fields. And a lot of executives are flipping over to consulting. And to be honest, I've made more money consulting than I ever did when I was in-house. I think it's an issue and something that should be called out, because nonprofits are needed. Nonprofits are good, and we need to take care of our people. And so when it comes to burnout, how do you define burnout?
I think that's a little bit different for everyone. But for whoever is answering that question, it's whenever you get to a place where you are overwhelmed, where you feel like you have more to do than you can accomplish in any day. And I think there's people like me. I'm a type A personality. I could have a to-do list the length of my body and feel like, oh, I've got stuff to do. And then other people would have a short list and be like, oh my God, I feel like I have to do this stuff, and it's overwhelming. So again, personalities come into this, but it's whenever you get to a point that you can't easily, comfortably figure out how to move forward, how to make progress. Everything seems overwhelming, decision fatigue, just feeling like you're doing everything, but you're not doing anything well. Marie, my business partner, she'll say things like, I feel like 3 of my 4 hats, I'm always doing 3 of them well, and I'm failing at one of them. So you're doing the business well, but you're failing as a mother. You're doing the motherhood well, but you're failing at the business, or whatever those things are. And not feeling like you have the time to do the things you want to do well. I remember there was a time last year was a big pivotal moment for me. I decided I wasn't traveling for work this year as a result of last year. And I just remember there was maybe a 6-week period. Every single day I was trying to get a pedicure. That sounds like the dumbest thing in the world. But the pedicure place is about a mile from my house. Like I can literally walk there. And I couldn't find the time in the day, weekend, day, anything, to go down for 45 minutes and get a pedicure. Couldn't find it. And I was just like beside myself, and I don't even understand this. I own my own business because I want to be able to create my own schedule. But now I'm not creating the time for myself to do the things that I didn't want to do. And so I think, again, it's going to be at a different level for everybody. We all have our own tolerance level for how much we can manage and how much we can do. But those are the things that I think about when I think about burnout.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And like you said, it can be individual. And it was funny because I have this visual of my daughter sticking her head in the sand the other day. And I was like, that's sometimes how I feel. Like my head is under the sand and I can't peek out, where it's like I had that running to-do list and I feel like I'm failing in one area and I can't keep up with the other. I think it's a very real feeling that we're all trying, and it manifests in different ways, right? Like for some of us, it can manifest emotionally, physically, spiritually in our relationships. And I think it is just important And if someone's listening to this, just acknowledge it. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to do anything to add to your to-do list, right? Just like notice where you're at and notice how you're feeling. And if there are symptoms of burnout that are starting to show up, like maybe pay attention to what's on your to-do list.
There was last year and the year before, I started noticing, like, I'm not an overly emotional person. Anybody that knows me will say that. But I would be sitting down watching TV because that was like my downtime. So I didn't have to think. I didn't have to do anything or whatever. But I'd be watching like Grey's Anatomy or something, whatever. And some normal situation or a commercial or some song that came on in the show would make me cry. I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, I think I'm burnt. I think I'm tired. I think I'm stressed because that's not normal for me at all. And so I started like recognizing all of that. And I was like, yep, something's got to change. Next year, something's got to be different. And so, well, yeah, haven't cried over a commercial this year.
That is very brave. There are some shows, This Is Us, where I would cry. And my husband's like, why are you crying right now? And I'm like, it's really hitting home. But that totally makes sense. And that's very brave and courageous of you to recognize that coming up. And you're known for helping people grow without burning out. So what are some of the common patterns you see that lead to burnout in the nonprofit or small business leaders? And how do you help them shift?
I think one of the biggest things is people's inability to say no and having some confidence around what you can or can't, should or shouldn't say no about, and saying no in order to. There's this phrase that we use all the time. When you say no to one thing, you're saying yes to something else, even if you don't know what that is. Sometimes you say no, so you say yes to show up for your kids. Sometimes you say no so that you have free time. So when another opportunity comes up, you could say yes if you wanted to. And sometimes when you say yes, you're saying no to something else, even if you don't realize it yet. You're making a commitment of your time, your energy, your resources that's going to prevent you from doing something else. So we take a lot of time to help people think through, A, you don't have to say yes to everything. It is perfectly okay to say no. How do you say no without feeling guilty? Because a lot of people coming from the nonprofit sector have this mindset, because we've been trained to think you have to do it all. You have to take it home with you. We want you to take your work home, but we don't want you to bring your home to work, right? We want you to answer the phone and respond to emails and be thinking about all these things, but you can't bring your kid to the office. You can't bring your dog to the office. You can't, whatever all those things are. And so there's a lot of culture that we're taught that's fairly negative in some nonprofit sectors, especially where I was coming up. I know things have changed quite a lot, and people are thinking more about culture, and people are thinking more about what the work environment is like, and people are trying to make some changes, but there's still a lot of toxic nonprofit culture, and people that are nonprofit consultants take it into their consulting practice. They're like, I can't do this. I shouldn't do this. I have to do this. And we project a lot of things that we don't need to. You can't be more concerned about your clients' success than they are, right? And that's something that's really hard for a lot of folks to learn. So again, we go through a lot of mindset conversations around, why are you overly concerned if they're not accessing the things you're offering as a consultant? It's out there and they know they can access it, but why are you overly concerned that they're not? Well, I don't want them to feel like they're not getting their value. So we have a lot of those conversations and think through, how do we make time for ourselves? How do we protect our sanity? What are our must-haves? What are our boundaries? How are we implementing those? How are we communicating those? What are the communication norms we're setting, whether it's in a nonprofit or in a client situation as a for-profit consultant? And just creating a lot of those and knowing it's okay, and hearing another person say to you, yeah, it's totally okay for you to say that. Think that, do that. I think it helps, because a lot of times people don't have that person in their corner hearing it, whether they're reading it in a blog or watching it on a YouTube video or hearing it from a coach they're paying. I think more people need to be saying those things and modeling how we do them successfully.
Yeah. If you're listening, this is your permission to say no more. In case you need the permission from someone to say it. And that was pivotal in my own business. The first year of consulting in 2022, I said yes to everything. And it was like, maybe I get paid $200, but I'm like, yes, why not? I'll help a friend. But it just led to more resentment on my side, because yes, I'm a jack of all trades, master of, I grew up in the fundraising world where you had to do it all, right? And so I was like, yeah, I could do all of this. But I found saying no more and niching down has allowed me to have access to more opportunities, like you said. And I think specifically in nonprofits, and I want to talk about how a strategic plan comes into place and how it helps nonprofit leaders say no more, because we know that donors come in the door and they have all these grandiose ideas. We have board members who are like, oh, this nonprofit did this. Now our nonprofit has to host this event. And it's, well, we don't have the capital or the resources or the manpower to do it. And so we do have to say no. And honestly, that is the number one question I get in interviews is how comfortable do you feel saying no to a board member? And so I think that's important. And I think that's where either a fund development strategy or strategic plan comes in, because you have those guide rails of your objectives. So talk a little bit more about the work that you do when it comes to strategic planning.
Okay. Yeah. So, strategic plans are business plans in the nonprofit sector. That's the term we use. It's a strategic plan because nonprofit is your tech status. It's not your business model. And a business plan is going to say, where are you now? Where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? And how are you going to get there? As a development director for my whole career, strategic plan was the most important tool in my fundraising toolkit because it allowed me to say to a donor, prospective donor, hey, this is where we are right now. This is where we want to be. This is where we want to go and how we want to get there. This is the part that we think you can play in helping achieve those goals. And you can very specifically say to them, this piece, we've agreed upon it. We've built consensus around it. The staff and the board and our stakeholders all agree that this is how we're moving forward and where we want to be. And we'd love for you to come on that journey with us. It is really easy to track. It should be a living document. You should be keeping up with it on a regular. It should include implementation plans to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. How are we going to do it? Who is responsible for it? What is the timeline that goes with that, right? Now, here's the beautiful thing. It's also your get out of jail free card. When you have a board member or a community stakeholder that's like, oh my God, I'd love for you to participate in this thing. And you're like, that sounds great. And we really appreciate you thinking of us. It doesn't really align with our current strategic plan. This is what we're working on. These are our current goals. This is our mission. It doesn't align with that. Happy to put it in the parking lot and talk about it as we revise our strategic plan going forward. We review it annually, and then every couple of years we create a new one. But right now it doesn't align. So it's a really easy way to say no because you have a reason to back it up. It's also great when you get that board member that comes in and says, oh my God, we should do this thing. This is a great idea. I just thought of this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's a fabulous idea. And I appreciate that you're putting that energy into it. However, right now that doesn't align with what we're saying we're going to do. So here are the options. We can either present to the whole board, hey, we've got this other idea. Do we want to revise the strategic plan as it's currently written? Nobody's going to do that. Or do we want to put it in the parking lot and kind of think about it as we grow and move forward in the organization as to if that's something we want to do during the next strategic planning process, right? So again, it's your way to push back a little without seeming disrespectful, while, like you said, staying within your guardrails. It's wonderful for executive directors. I don't know an executive director that has a strategic plan that uses it that doesn't really appreciate the support it gives them when they're trying to have conversations with those more zealous board members.
Yeah, definitely. And I was having a conversation with another consultant last week and talking about how generally there's not a fund development plan that goes in line with a strategic plan. And how do nonprofits go about doing both so that they have a fund development plan on how they're going to reach and fund those strategic objectives?
So a couple of things that we do is we try, when it's possible, to align the strategic plan with the fiscal year, first of all, with enough time so that you can look at the final plan and it will inform your budget for that next. So for example, we have clients that are doing their strategic plans this fall. Like when we come to California, we'll be there in August and their final plan will be in hand in September so that they have September, October, November, part of December to craft their budget based on what they need to do for the next 12 months in that strategic plan so it aligns. In a perfect world, you have a budget that corresponds with the strategic plan. Once your budget is approved, the development team can take that and say, okay, which pieces of this do we have to raise money for? Which pieces don't come from program expenses, don't come from drawdowns from endowments, don't come from investments, those types of things. And then you can create a really well-written development plan, fundraising plan. And then once you realize how you're going to raise the money, you can create a donor relations plan because you're like, oh, we're getting this much from individual donors, this much from churches, this much from businesses, this much from foundations, blah, 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 whatever. These are our strategies. And then once you have a donor plan, you can say, how are we going to market this? Then you create your marketing plan, right? Oh, we're going to have 4 special events. Great. What are they? How are we going to get them out in the community? Oh, we want to increase our planned giving. How are we going to do that? Oh, we start a monthly giving program. How are we going to market that? So again, when you have a well-written strategic plan that aligns with your current budget or the budget you're creating, all those other plans become possible. So as a development person, again, I didn't for the past probably the last 8 or 9 years of my development career, I wouldn't work in an organization that didn't have a strategic plan. And if I had known enough in the beginning of my career, I would have insisted then too, but it just makes everybody's job easier.
When it comes to the strategic plan, who should be at the table? Who should be in the room setting out the plan for the organization?
So we use evidence-based model from the technology of participation. It's called the TOP method, and it's created by the Department of Cultural Affairs. And it is consensus-based process. So it is, depending on the size and the makeup of an organization, you want well representation from your board. So 80% of your board members, if not all of them, would be there, as well as key staff and voices from your staff, and then any key stakeholders that need to be in the room, which isn't always a ton of people. You do a stakeholder process to get feedback from stakeholders, but they may not show up in the room necessarily for the retreat process. We go through mission and visioning sessions. So you want some of your board and staff in the room for that. We go through a SWOT analysis, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and achievements. And you want everybody's voice, right? Staff have a different perspective than the board. Board doesn't necessarily know everything that goes on with the staff. So you want both of their voices in the room for that. And then we have a stakeholder engagement piece, and then we have a 2-day retreat. So we want a combination of, it shouldn't be the board creating a strategic plan and passing it down to the staff, because the staff are the one implementing it. Their voices should be heard. They should be a part of it. And it shouldn't be the staff creating it and sending it to the board, because they're the governing body. So it has to be both. And getting the right people in the room is a huge piece of the process. Having a conversation about who and how, and having a collection process for information for people who want to be there but can't, right? Like I planned a trip a year ahead of time and I can't be here for that, but I want to participate in the process. So as a consultant, you want to have a way for folks to gather information for people who can't be there as well.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I've never heard of the A on a SWOT analysis.
We can add that. That's the funding for good.
I like it. I like it. And I had Tucker Wanamaker from Thrive on my podcast a few years ago, and you're talking about getting buy-in and belonging before entering that room, right? Before entering that strategic plan. So how do you help cultivate buy-in and belonging within the whole process of the strategic plan?
So the 3 sections that I mentioned, the mission, vision, SWOT, and stakeholder engagement, those are conversations that happen pre-retreat.
Imagine a fundraising partner that not only helps you raise more money, but also supports you in retaining your donors. A partner that helps you raise funds both online and on location, so you can grow your impact faster. That's DonorBox, a comprehensive suite of tools, services, and resources that give fundraisers just like you a custom solution to tackle your unique challenges, helping you achieve the growth and sustainability your organization needs, helping you help others. Visit donorbox.org to learn more.
So we have like 5 hours virtually that we're working with folks. And so we get conversations, we build rapport, we get to hear voices. Everybody's voice is heard in this evidence-based process. There are specific ways for data collection to where your introverts are heard, your extroverts are heard, the people who want to talk out loud are heard, the people who really prefer to write it down are heard. So we have a way to collect information from everybody. So nobody is scared to say anything. Nobody is scared to share their thoughts or their ideas. And one of the questions we ask in all stages of that process is, do you feel like your voice is represented on the wall? Right? So it's a very paper-heavy process. Do you feel like the thoughts that you have are up here? Are we seeing that? It also eliminates duplicates. So if 2 people have the same thought, there's a way to make sure that thought is put up on the wall in the best phrasing possible. But so again, that everybody feels like their voice is heard. And it's actually pretty magical the way it works. I'm not a big group process person in general, but I haven't yet had a group that this didn't work with. Big, small, every niche, nonprofit, for-profit, government sectors. We've done it with everybody. One of our biggest for-profit clients is in California, and we come there and do it with them. We do it with health systems. We do it with public health departments. We do it with small nonprofits, tiny nonprofits, startup nonprofits. Everybody has just done really well with the process and love it and feel like it's a plan that everybody came up with. So consensus doesn't mean everybody agrees 100%. Consensus means everybody can agree on how they're moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a pretty cool process.
Yeah, and I think when people have that buy-in and belonging, they think their voices are heard. They're willing to have the hard conversations, and they're willing to step into that room and be like, okay, I feel safe here. I feel seen. And when it comes to, yes, the consensus is yes, we can agree to move forward. When it comes to accountability and action for their strategic plan, how do you coach your clients on implementation instead of just letting, going through this whole hard process, this process of putting together this beautiful plan and then letting it sit on the shelf? Like, how do you move into that? Okay, we agreed to take this. Let's move forward.
So the unique thing about the way that Funding for Good facilitates strategic planning is most plans, when you hire someone to come and help you facilitate it, they end with the plan. And they say, this is what we want to do. This is the process we want to follow. But Funding for Good in our 2-day retreat takes it one step further. And we create a 1-year task and timeline for the first year's goals and objectives. And then we take those out and we create implementation plans for the first 90 days. So we have an implementation plan for every single task that shows up in that first year timeline. We show the clients how to do that process. We provide them with the templates so they can continue to replicate that process every quarter. So they're reviewing it, refreshing it, saying red light, green light, this is successful. We're going to put a green light because we're completed. This one we're still working on, let's make it a yellow. They're reviewing it regularly. Many of our clients will sign, about 80% of our clients will sign up for a 1-year support package with us. So we facilitate those quarterly meetings for them. And then at the end of the first quarter, we do 1-day retreat. So then we're writing that next out of the 3-year plan, we're writing the second year's 1-year timelines, 90-day implementation plan, and continuing to move that process forward. So if there's something that didn't get accomplished in year 1, it moves over to year 2. We evaluate things that need to be removed. And then everything that's been accomplished, we're like, great, those don't show up in the next year's plan. And are we still moving forward? Right? So it's really well structured to not end in a place where people feel like they don't have next steps. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Who's doing it? What's the timeline? What's the process? So we actually do create some implementation planning in that process.
Ooh, that is so good. Do you have any resources or templates that would be like an example of what that looks like? I know you have a wealth of resources on your website.
Yeah, so we have a 5-part strategic planning webinar series. And depending on the section that we're talking about, there's templates and samples of things in there. The one thing we don't have, people ask us for this all the time, and once we explain this, they understand, but we don't have a sample of a client's final strategic plan because that's an internal document. And even within the organization, they usually pare that down and have a public-facing document that they'll put on their website or they'll share, because a lot of that stuff is internal information that you wouldn't release to the public. So I haven't yet had a client that's like, oh yeah, share that with your client. Like, give them all of our internal stuff, right? So the formatting of it, what's included in it, we share that with clients in our approach to strategic planning. And we say, these are all the things that are going to be included. This is the format, whatever. But an actual example of one, we don't really share. I guess we could sit down and take the time to make something up. And when you see it on paper, if you don't understand how you got the information on paper, you wouldn't be able to replicate that process. Yeah. So I think that becomes a little more frustrating because people want to see that template and they're like, oh, I can do this myself. But like, they don't know how consensus was built.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And I think I love seeing a big goal and then breaking it down into tasks and timelines. And I think that goes back to saying no and helping prevent burnout, right? Because we can be busy, we can be productive, but that doesn't mean we're efficient, right? So we're adding all of these tasks to our to-do list because we think, oh, well, we have to look like we're doing something to meet the objectives of the strategic plan, right? But if you have that task and timeline and implementation plan, and then you check it every quarter, that prevents burnout because at the end of the day, you know what you've accomplished.
Well, and the other thing that we do is you'd have to see it to understand it, but part of the end of the strategic planning 2-day retreat process is we have an entire year up on the wall, a calendar, if you will. And then we have tasks for that first year on the wall that are categorized by quarter. So we can visually look at it and say, wow, Q1 looks really heavy, right? So we can visually see, is this accurate? Do things need to move around a little bit? We don't want to be overwhelmed, blah, blah, whatever. But then we assign who's the person responsible for this task and who are the people helping them. So that shows up on each task. And we can then visually look at it and say, does anybody feel like their name is missing from a task? Do you feel like there's somewhere you should be helping that you're not on there, that we should add you? Then does anybody feel like you're showing up somewhere you shouldn't, or you're showing up more than you can handle? Because all the people are in the room, right? And so when you see the ED on 90% of the task, that's when you've got everybody in the room to say, guys, this doesn't really seem feasible. This is above and beyond business as usual. So if the executive director already has to do all their normal stuff, and then we expect them to do all of this as well, we need somebody to step up and help with this task or that tasks or whatever. And so it really helps to say, are we being realistic? Can we do these things? Can the people that we think can do these things do these things? And so that's another checks and balances piece in the process so that we're not realistically setting ourselves up for goals we can't accomplish.
Hey there, podcast family. If you're like me and deeply committed to improving your leadership skills and fostering better connections with your team, I've got something truly amazing to share with you. I'm proud to introduce the EMC Masterclass, something I talk about often as a certified trainer. It's an incredible program developed by the renowned Dr. Lola Gershfeld, an organizational psychologist and corporate emotional connection expert. You might remember her from a podcast episode where she shared invaluable insights into the world of emotional connection. Dr. Gershfeld's EMC Leaders courses are designed for anyone working with people, whether you're a manager, supervisor, team leader, educator, coach, mentor, or a team member. This program is truly for everyone looking to enhance their communication and collaboration skills to raise more revenue for their mission. Now, let me tell you why the EMC Masterclass is a game changer. Dr. Gershfeld's groundbreaking emotional connection process has been integrated into top universities' curriculum and recognized by international organizations like ICF, HRCI, and SHRM. Humans are wired to seek emotional safety, and when we feel safe, we're more likely to take risks, share innovative ideas, and collaborate effectively. The EMC process is the catalyst for creating that emotional safety within your team. The virtual EMC Masterclass consists of 8 modules with 4 hours of expertly recorded material, 13 quizzes to reinforce your learning, and a workbook filled with activities for offline practice and something I still refer to daily. Ready to become an emotional connection master? Dr. Gershfeld is offering an exclusive detail for our podcast listeners. Use the code LEADWITHHEART to enjoy a generous 10% discount on the EMC Masterclass. Head over to emcleaders.com and enroll in the EMC Masterclass today.
Oh, I would love to be a fly on the wall in one of those rooms because I love how you've described how to lay that out, because it's definitely how my brain works as well. And you've trained thousands of professionals. And I think a lot of nonprofits struggle with transition, and we've seen a lot of transition over the last few years. We know that there's a high turnover percentage in nonprofits, whether it's leadership changes or maybe a nonprofit is ready to grow or make a strategic shift. And we're in a time of uncertainty where a lot of nonprofits have been affected by funding cuts and funding changes. And so how do you approach guiding organizations through these messy and uncertain moments? So Funding for Good does executive search for executive directors and development directors. Like, it's not on our website, but we work with clients, mostly our strategic planning clients, but we do that work. And a big part of it is going back to your strategic plan and saying, what are we realistically asking someone to do? It's looking at current job descriptions and saying, is this realistic? What needs to change about it if we're bringing someone in? How are we wanting to change as an organization? If you don't have the right fit, if you're not putting the right advertising out in the world, you're not going to get the right candidates. So then they're not going to be able to fill the roles that you need. Sometimes it's having a conversation and saying, is it better to outsource this thing? Yeah, there has been a mass exodus in the nonprofit sector. People are saying they're retiring and not coming back. Executives, board people. There's so many people leaving the sector. And if they do come back, it's going to be in a consulting capacity. And sometimes I think we have to sit down and do evaluations with clients, whether they're nonprofits or whatever, and say, what is the better use of our resources? Is it a full-time person doing this or that, or is it outsourcing it? Do we have to have this position filled? And like we met with a lady today at lunch to talk about strategic planning. She wears 5 hats in her organization. 5. She is CFO, COO. She does almost all the fundraising except for very little bit of grant writing. She is what are the other 2 things? Just 2 other things. And I was just like, whoa, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, there's a problem. We usually say you're a unicorn, but she's like a black unicorn, like super duper rare because she's got so many hats. So as we talk with them about strategic planning, one of the questions is, have you thought about hiring a development director to take 3 of these hats off of her head? And so again, sometimes it's just open conversations. Some people don't know the solutions that are available. Some people don't even know that I was having a conversation yesterday with a potential client. And we're talking, again, she didn't have a development director. And she's wanting to do a capital campaign. And I'm like, okay, do you have the capacity to do all the donor cultivation for this process, as well as your executive director stuff and everything else? She's like, I'd really like to have a development staff. I said, if it were me, I'd be talking about hiring a development staff before I start the campaign. And so again, it's just hearing the options that are out there, seeing what resources a particular organization has, and then finding the best solution for them right now. Sometimes it's going to be, okay, this is a Band-Aid. Can we do this Band-Aid until we can raise the resources to do this next step, which would be a real solution? Because we want to create sustainability for organizations, not just continuously find fixes, short-term fixes. Yeah. And again, sometimes people just don't know the options that exist. I'm the same way as a business owner. Sometimes I'm doing things in such an antiquated fashion, and I get that because I'm super old school. But occasionally someone will show something to me that I'm actually open to learning because I don't like technology. And I can see how it will help me, and I'm willing to learn the technology for that, and it does help. But somebody had to show me that solution first, because there's no way I would ever have learned that on my own. I feel that way sometimes with my clients. Like, they just don't know what they don't know, just like all of us. It's our job as consultants to have the resources and the connections, or the knowledge, whichever combination of those things it is, to provide them with some solutions. And it's like I tell people all the time, your consultant is not supposed to know the answer to every question you ask them. What they are supposed to do is have the resources and the connections to find the answers when you ask them. So I think understanding the role of who you're working with is really helpful.
That is so good. And one of my top episode is with Cindy Wagman, who runs the Fractional Fundraising Academy. And so if you want to learn more about said options, go tune into that episode, because it's been number 1 ever since we had it a few years ago, which is exciting. And so people are interested in learning more about those options for sure. What's one mindset shift or piece of advice that consistently lights a spark for people and changes how they lead?
You can't expect yourself from others. So whatever that thing is, you can't expect your communication style from the other people you work with. And you can't expect your processing style, your level of productivity, your whatever the thing is, your response time. So for me, that's a big one. It's like, I am immediate to respond to people, whether it's an email or a text or a phone call. And I had to learn after years of this business, like, I can't expect that from other people. That's not normal expectations. That's how I react. That's not everybody's going to react. If you can process an answer very quickly and give someone an answer very quickly in a meeting, that's your style. You can't expect everybody to be like, what do you think about this? And to have an immediate answer every single time you ask a question. So again, I think it's very helpful, whether you're working with people or running your own business, working with people that way, to understand you can't expect yourself and the way that you process or think from other people. And it's hard to sit down and to understand how other people process or other people function, work, how they feel they're productive. Marie and I work together all the time, and she has a wildly different processing style than me. Wildly. She wants to plan everything out. She wants to focus on one task at a time. I cannot ask her a question while she's doing something. And I'm the person who's like doing 5 things at once, and you can interrupt me and I don't care. I can pick right back up where I was, and I don't need that I don't need that. And she does. And it's taken us a really long time to get to where she understands how I work and I understand how she works. And we give each other some grace on both sides. If I see she's involved in something, I will try my very best not to just be like, can you just answer this one question for me? Because that's what I want to say. I'm like, I just need this thing so I can move on. But I know she can't do that. So that's been the biggest help across the board. I think just in life, it's helpful to learn.
Yeah, I think it goes across any relationship, right? Knowing how different people process. And I know there's I just read the book by Gottman, The 7 Principles of Communication. That's specific to marriage, but learning different communication styles within a relationship. So what are some resources because I think I've heard strength finders or people, one of my dad's really good friends who's an executive director, president of a college here in Orange County, he puts a different color block that symbolizes your communication style so people know who they're communicating with in the space and how to communicate with different people at the table. So do you have any resources to uncover, one, what your own communication style is? Because sometimes you don't even know how you communicate or how you process things, and then how to bring that into a relationship with your coworkers.
I don't have the resources that you're looking for that because I just ask. I ask everybody that I work with when we start working together, tell me what your preferred communication style is. Sometimes it's easy. Do you prefer email, text, phone call? What is your best, easiest way to respond? And sometimes that changes based on the circumstances. If Marie's kids are home because they're out of school and she doesn't have daycare, she's going to be text me. Otherwise, if I know she's in the office, it's probably going to be call me. If it's something that has to do with a task I need her to do, she's going to say, put it in Asana. Again, we've worked together long enough that I know based situationally on what those are. For other people, I'll just ask. I'm like, I am a super direct communicator. I need you to understand this about me. I'm just going to say things the way they are, never intended to hurt your feelings or not be, I don't know, whatever. I don't sugarcoat much. So I need you to not be offended. If you design something for me and I'm like, yeah, can you make it this and that and give me a white space? I didn't say, I don't like that, you suck, do this. I was just like, yeah, that looks really great. I've already analyzed it. Please make these changes and that'd be perfect. All my team has learned my communication style. And yesterday I had to call somebody that I had to give some feedback to, not on my team, but just somebody in our community. And I was really honest. I know you haven't known me that long, a year, but there's this thing that you're doing that's not part of the culture that we created here at Funding for Good. And some people have made comments about it. And I was just wondering if you could not. That'd be great. I'm not saying that to hurt your feelings or whatever. And I'm cool with however you communicate offline and with your own people and whatnot. I don't care. But just in these groups, because you not do this thing. And she was like, oh my God, thank you so much for telling me. I'm like, but again, I'm just that's me and that's my super direct communication style. But I try to preface it with, I hope this doesn't hurt your feelings. It's not intended to, because I understand that I'm a super direct communicator and a lot of people take that as abrasive. And so I have learned over the past 20 years of we're dealing with people that I have to say that stuff because people take it the wrong way when I give feedback just the way I give feedback. And so again, I feel like we adapt over time and we learn what we need to do to help other people hear us better. And part of it for me is just asking. So I don't read a bunch of books about it. I don't have any resources for it. I'm sure there are a million out there, but I just ask.
Yeah, that leads to less conflict and less resentment with it or disconnection within a relationship, right? Because you understand how you communicate, the other person understands how you communicate, and you can meet in the middle and have those productive conversations. So to end, obviously you talk a lot about work-life balance. You've shared a little bit about your own experience in-house and also over the last few years as a business owner. What does that look like for you in this season? And what practices keep you grounded and energized?
I love to garden. So 3/4 of the year, I'm outside in my yard or in my garden. Right now, I'm in my office and I have lots of bird feeders and bird baths and whirligigs in my garden. And that is just my happy space. So I take care of that. I read. I was such a voracious reader as a child. My mom used to take me to the library and be like, get whatever books you want. As long as I could carry them, I could take them. And I got out of it for a while because I don't like to read for work. That's not pleasure for me. And so I've just started, last year, I just started reading again. And I have gone through entire series of novels from authors. And they're like, oh, I read their whole series. Now I got to find another author. Now I'm in the middle of one that's got 11 books and I'm on book 4. So I'm like, all I want to do is finish my work day and go read. So I do that a lot. And then I love to cook. So I cook a lot. I can, I preserve, but I love to cook gourmet meals and try new recipes. And this weekend, I'm learning to make orange marmalade. Not that it's going to be hard, but I've never made it. Just those are the things I like to do the most.
What's your favorite meal to cook?
I don't like to cook the same thing all the time. So have you ever watched the show Chopped? You know how they just get a basket of random stuff and they have to make a meal out of it? I feel like those are the evenings I enjoy the most. Like I'll have a protein that I know is ready. Like last night we had steaks, right? But I hadn't have any meal planned around the steaks. So when I went in to start fixing dinner, I was like, what can I fix? What do I have? And it's just like going through and figuring out things and trying new dishes. And I love that. So I have an underground dinner club. And yeah, it's a group of ladies and they're the only people that get invited. And we do it like once or twice a year. And it's usually got a theme. Our last one was the beginning of the year. We did Italian, but I get to gourmet prepare. We had 11 dishes at this last one. And I get to pull out all my fancy china and all my pretty glassware. And I get to prepare a menu. It takes me like 6 months. I do all the research and I do all the prep. And my husband and I do all the cooking. I take a week off from work and I cook for a week. And then they come over and I get to entertain and be their host for the evening and just watch them enjoy food and drink wine. And it's great. So those are the things I love.
That sounds like a way to get creativity out as well. So where can people find you, Mandy?
Fundingforgood.org.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been a highlight of my summer. Having this conversation with you, I am just so thankful for you.
Well, thank you. I hope I get to meet you this summer. That would be so awesome.
Yes, most definitely. Hey, before you go, want to watch? Yes, watch the best moments from the Lead with Heart episodes? We're sharing the most powerful highlights and takeaways over on our brand new YouTube channel. Yes, we are on YouTube. Just search for The Savvy Fundraiser on YouTube and hit subscribe so you never miss a moment of insight and inspiration. The link is in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening, and as always, keep leading with heart.